Welcome to episode 19 of Noobs to Pros. In today's episode, we'll be looking at two games in my Hellcat. The games were played on the map Erlenbeg in my Hellcat. Hellcat is an amazing tank. Before I go any further into the gameplay, I think tier for tier, it is the most overpowered tank at tier 6. I know people complain a lot about the KB1S, but I seem to have no problems killing KB1Ss. But just because KB1S is not going to have the range, not going to have the camouflage that a Hellcat has. In case you're wondering, I use Melty's math mod for my crosshair sight. Rest of the mods that you see are taken from Quickie Baby, who's a YouTuber in case you haven't heard. Now, we start on the south side, and my strategy right now is going towards the ridge in the east. Now the spread looks, as far as teams are concerned, looks pretty even. We have a slight advantage of winning this over our competitors. Now there's some other mods I use in this gameplay as well. One of them is Gnome Father's real historically accurate gun sound mod and engine noises. I'm just following the other Hellcat right now. I'm thinking as soon as I crest the hill, there's going to be somebody who's going to be by the farm, because generally that's where one of the locations that many people will come to spot. So I'm gonna go sit up here and hopefully not get spotted before the said person. And one of the things that you want to keep in mind if you're trying to get to an aggressive location early is look at the speed that the enemy tank has. Make sure that there's no tanks that can challenge you, or you have a very good idea of the tanks that can challenge you when you get to that location. Over here, I decide to move up, seeing as I don't see anybody. Now, over here, one thing that a lot of people will make a mistake on is that they will, go a little bit to the left and be exposed from the left from any fire coming from the town. So over here I make this mistake too. I would say that you shouldn't do this, because if anybody's in the town, he or she will put a good number of shots into you. Now over here I'm thinking I'm not spotted, but apparently the Wolverine, there's a Wolverine sitting across and he is actually spotting me. If I had to guess, he probably fired an HE round into me that wrecked me for about most of my health. Now, right now, what I was thinking was, I was very angry at the Leopard who is in our team. I don't know what he's doing. His job is to go over and scout the ridge ahead of us. Now, I'm trying to do that, but I cannot take another hit from the Wolverine. So part of me wants the Leopard to go and make sure that there's nobody there. Now I take one more shot from the Panzer III in the town, and I'm dead. So as soon as I see the Leopard 1 sort of like progress up, I'm, part of me is thinking, should I make sure that he's dead or not? I know the Leopard's gonna get hit, and right on cue the Leopard gets hit by the Wolverine. I use the Leopard as cover and put one into the Wolverine. The Wolverine's kind of like out of options right about now, because he fired at the Leopard and killed him. Now after I've killed the Leopard, I know the Panzer III, which was in the town, got destroyed by somebody on our team. I don't know who. So right now I'm trying to figure out what the next sort of like approach to this game will be. Now since my driver is dead, this tank, one of its saving graces is its amazing speed, and I now don't have that speed. So I'm trying to go climb back up to the ridge and hopefully get some more shots, support the couple of players that are still holding out within the city. One thing you should always keep in mind is always look at your minimap, count the number of tanks. This is one thing that people forget. You should always count the number of tanks that have appeared on your screen at any one point, because that will help you sort of like determine where you can flank tanks from. If there's a specific area that you want to use to get away from certain tanks, or if there's any avenues of approach that you have not taken into account for. Now I'm over here trying to figure out whether I should take a blind shot, and I do take one anyways. I know my team is losing 7-9, and I have to be effective in this game. I cannot just sit back and hopefully, make not, hopefully have my team sort of like carry me through this. I sort of like have to have some good, I have to have a decent size of contribution if you're ever going to win this game. Now over here, I progress forward. I've counted the number of tanks. There's very few tanks that, are not accounted for. I'm gonna put one shot into the M4. Sort of like in order to just tell him to, buddy, back off. You're spotted. Don't get overly aggressive over here. More often than not, if you're even if somebody's pushing, if he's not a smart player, what you want to do is you just want to put pressure on him. You just want to put one shot into him, like just let him know, you know what, this you cannot just progress across this highway just because you seem like it. Now, I know that some of the tanks are unaccounted for, but I'm taking a chance here because if they cross over and if our KB2 dies, then, sort of like we cannot win this from that point onwards. So I kind of like have to make a decision about where to go. And so I'm trying to get more shots into people before, I sort of like want to exhaust this point before I have to go start moving. Now I look at the minimap and I know most of the team is going to be focusing on into the town in the middle, or sort of like the capture point area in the middle. And it's because of the very same reason, because we are capping and they are capping at the same time, so it's kind of like a stalemate. They are not going to start pushing all of a sudden out of the cap and, sort of like rush us, because more often than not, very few enemies have the presence of mind to actually do this. So what I'm trying to do, it's a gamble. There could be a random person just sitting on top of the ridge for no reason. It can happen. It's like when you enter a room in Call of Duty. Yes, I do play Call of Duty, and there's this one random guy who's lying in the middle of the room, for no apparent reason. So, there's always, RNG like that you cannot take into account for. But I think I have, fairly good idea of how and where the enemies are. I progress up and hide behind the house just in case I was spotted. I am not. I've kept my turret turned the way in which I'm expecting fire from. You should always do this in case, somebody fires at you. Your armor is facing your strongest armor is facing generally in the direction that you're expecting fire out of. Now, I'm not spotted, so I'm kind of like surprised, and, sort of like my calculations are paying off as well, because I was really thinking that there would be somebody over here, maybe in the bushes up there, sort of like trying to get a better angle into fire into town, but apparently I was wrong. And here I'm kind of like surprised to see, this tank just progressing up. They're already sort of like trying to get away. I take my time and aim at him. I know he's not that fast going up the hill, and I want to make sure that I kill him. At this point, I'm kind of afraid that they actually know that I'm over here. I don't know whether they were paying attention to the mini-maps or not. Now, I tell the KB2 to sort of like, hold his position. I don't want him to die needlessly, because I want to flank them and then ask for the spot. So the KB2 starts moving up, and he spots, the Panzer IV Schmaltrum, and I over here try to expose as little of my tank as possible. I know he's not moved, or else I would have spotted him. I put another one into him, and then, he thinks he's safe. It's too late for him. He tries to back around a corner. It's just the road's a little bit too long. He's not going to get it out of this one. So I secure another kill. And now I'm only one off from getting the top gun. Now I'm trying to figure out where the other tank is. I know one of them is still in the cap circle, because that's why it's still contested. But I don't know where the Yak Panzer IV is. Now, finally, somebody spots the Yak Panzer IV, so I now know definitively where that tank is. Now, I'm gonna put one into the SU-100, take him out of the game, but not before, our one of our tanks sort of like bites the dust. And I'm gonna be aggressive and get behind the Yak Panzer IV as fast as I can. So, he has two firing arcs that he has to consider: either fire at me or fire at the guys in front. Obviously, either he has not paid attention to his minimap, or, he's just like, I don't care. But, I come behind him, I'm about to put one shot into him, and it's all over. So in this game, I kind of like showed you how, you should be playing, actively, like changing positions in a fast tank, because that's what you're paying the mobility. The price of mobility is lesser armor, and the only way to stay alive is to get into better positions, flank people, count tanks always. That will always help you sort of like get in where you want to. Now this game is slightly different. Um, I'll get just a spoiler. I'll get a top gun in this one as well, and it's because I play smartly against a lot of tanks that have a lot more sort of like grunt than I do. So what I want to do right now is I'll take a position over here. One of my platoon mates has decided to go to the cab, which is fine, but I have a feeling that this flank will need more support than that one. And purely because there's two togs. And if those two togs come down this, sort of like come down west, then there won't be, between their hit points, there will be just too many hit points for us to kind of like deal with. So I kind of like take my position in these bushes, make sure my binocs are on, trying to get anything that's going to come across spotted, and I'm now just waiting. I mean, from the split you can tell that, it's gonna be somewhat of a difficult match. I thought I would be spotted as soon as I fired, but apparently I wasn't. I could have put one more shot into him, so in hindsight that was a mistake on my part. Now I'm trying to figure out where and how to sort of like, engage these tanks that are coming forward. The Jackson will be sort of like an hindrance throughout the game. I sort of like regret not, just taking him out outright. One other thing that you want to keep in mind that your hit points on like very weak tanks are kind of like you have to manage them very carefully. If you have to take a shot to take somebody out, excuse me, you should always do that, and that's because if you try to bait him into firing and he fires and accident and hits you and misses you, but then you sort of like panic and fire at the same time, you might take two shots for the one shot you could have taken reliably and killed him. So in many cases in heavier tanks, if you think you can take one shot, always factor into account RNG. Like, the person can roll high and kill you, for example. He can roll sort of like low and not kill you. So you should always take that into account. So you all should always keep in mind RNG. Right now I'm just positioning around this hill, sort of like trying to figure out what is the best way to sort of like deal with these incoming tanks. I sort of like take to my bush. I'm trying not to get spotted, but the M4 was just too good of an opportunity, and I know I would be spotted because I was just too close and I was not gonna, he's not gonna not spot me in that. So I'm just gonna try and see if I can take out the M4, which I do. M4 derp guns against Hellcats, very bad trade. You should never take that trade into account because you're gonna lose something. You're gonna lose either your gunner, your driver, something, if it's not gonna damage you that much. So be careful. Now the SU-100 just sits there, and I, pummel him until he's very low health. He decides to move forward, but at that time it's kind of like too late for him. And suddenly I realized this pesky Martyr 38T has moved all the way here. So I'm gonna try and put one into him, sort of like use the gun depression on that tank, on my tank, to sort of like tell him that he shouldn't do this. At this point I could have taken a shot from the Martyr 38, but I was not that interested in taking a shot, losing my health for no reason. Now I sort of like turned my attention back to that flank, and I kind of like realized that all my team is gonna sort of like die out. So it will sort of like come down to me and how I play for the rest of the game. Now I'm trying to see if I can get some shots in the TOG. I know the Martyr 38T is itching to sort of like get back and hit me again. So at this point I kind of like decide, what, it's time to sort of like just go and flank these tanks. And the reason for that is the TOG knows exactly where I am. The Martyr 38T is close enough for him to kind of like tell me, for them to tell me, the rest of the people, where I am. And so I don't want to stick around here and give them an easier sort of like target to hit. Now I'm still trying to maneuver here, trying to figure out, what to do, whether to go in, sort of like take him out, or whether to go back. I see the Jackson has moved up, and so has the Tog. So now, sort of like my approach is more or less clear. I need to flank at this point, and the reason for that is that the Martyr 38T is one shot, the Jackson is a one shot. So I need to take both of them out, and kill them. Here I bounced a shot from the Martyr 38T. I think he probably hit the gun mantlet. That's the only part of the tank that will actually ever bounce. So now I'm gonna do quick and furious drive-by. The reason why I backed off is for the sort of like for my camo to settle back in, and so the Jackson doesn't realize I'm doing this. And so I, clip the Jackson over here, and I'm trying to find out where the Tog is. Now, the worst thing you can make a mistake about the Tog is actually, come in front of a Tog and just let him wail on you, because that tank has very, very good DPM. Very good DPM. You cannot just come in front of a Tog and think you can out DPM a Tog unless you're in a tier 8 heavy tank, which I don't think you are going to be in. Over here, I take out the Tog, using the excellent gun depression, and my other platoon mate at the time dies, to an arty, and the enemy sort of like tells me that I played a good game, and I reply in kind, thank you. It was very kind of that gentleman to say, those things. Now, it might seem like we're winning, but just in a fraction of a second, it's all gonna go south like really fast. So over here, I see the grill. I do not take, I do not reload. I just ram into him. I know I'm not gonna take that much damage ramming a grill, so I kill him and sort of like move on to the Tog. The Tog now kills, the third remaining tank on our team. And that's why you have to be careful. You cannot just come in front of a Tog and think you can out DPM him, even if he's at low health. His health pool is ginormous, and that's for a reason, because he has no armor, and he has to trade that health for your health. If you think you can sort of like kill a Tog, like DPM wise in a tier 6 tank, you are very sadly mistaken. Even in KV2, you can come in front of Tog, fire maybe once. By the time you reload, he probably can easily kill you by then. Now here I'm extremely unlucky. The shot just trails over the Tog and now just goes in. Here I make sure that I put that one in, and that's why I expose more of my tank. I let the aiming reticle settle in, and I take the last shot for my second Top Gun. So hopefully you've all enjoyed this brief commentary about World of Tanks. If you like it, leave a like or comment in the section below. I do appreciate that a lot. Anyways, folks, I'll catch you next time on another episode of World of Tanks. And hopefully give you some of my insights that I've learned over some time.